Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we're cracking open the operational machinery of ISO 14001-2026, Clause 3.4. We're going to keep the energy high and really focus in because the language we use in environmental management, well, it's not just semantic red tape. It's actually the engine running your entire system. So, we are going to break down exactly how to read your organization's dashboard. Let's get into it.
So let's kick things off with a pretty critical question. What actually happens when an auditor, a regulatory inspector, and your internal team are essentially speaking completely different languages? Getting these terms wrong isn't just a failed vocab test. It can literally trigger massive regulatory fines and expose critical compliance gaps. Language defines interpretation, and, interpretation completely dictates whether you pass or fail an audit.
Here's our roadmap for today. We'll be covering 1. The evaluation engine. 2. Monitoring versus measurement. 3. Decoding nonconformity. 4. The continual improvement loop. And 5. Bridging ISO and regulations. All right, Section 1, the evaluation engine.
The core concept we need to grasp here is that terminology is the operational machinery that detects risks, proves compliance, and drives sustainability. Clause 3.4 isn't just some dictionary for you to memorize and toss in a drawer. It's the vital dashboard and the check engine light of your entire environmental framework. And just like your car, completely ignoring that dashboard light usually gets incredibly expensive, right? It sets the baseline so that when you say you're tracking performance, an external auditor knows exactly what objective evidence to look for.
Moving right along to Section 2, monitoring versus measurement.
Let's tackle monitoring first. Now, ISO defines this as the systematic determination of the status of an environmental performance characteristic over time. Think of monitoring as your early detection mechanism. It's a continuous or maybe periodic observation of your operational behaviors. We're talking about things like watching your daily waste generation rates, tracking energy usage patterns, or observing noise levels to make sure they stay within your established thresholds.
Measurement, on the other hand, that's a whole different ballgame. It demands exact, traceable, and repeatable quantitative evidence. It involves assigning hard, numerical values using calibrated instruments and validated methodologies. Whether you're determining the exact concentration of pollutants or calculating precise energy consumption rates, measurement is the strict, undeniable data that proves your compliance.
Okay, think of it this way. Monitoring is observation. It's taking the pulse of your system to see if it's generally healthy. Measurement is quantification. That's drawing the blood for a rigorous lab test to assign a hard, exact number to that health status. You absolutely need both, but they serve completely different diagnostic purposes in your overall environmental strategy.
To put that into perspective with a practical application, you might monitor your fleet's overall fuel consumption patterns over a month just to spot general inefficiencies or maintenance issues. But you actually measure the exact carbon dioxide emissions with calibrated gas analyzers to legally prove your compliance with emission limits. You just can't prove a measurable environmental objective with a general observation.
Let's shift gears. Section 3. Decoding nonconformity.
A nonconformity is precisely defined as the non-fulfillment of a requirement within the environmental management system. It's a glaring indicator of a system weakness or a serious process failure. It tells us that our environmental performance outcomes are missing their defined criteria. And that's true whether that requirement comes from an ISO clause itself, a strict legal obligation, or even your own internal environmental policies.
For instance, discharging untreated wastewater that exceeds limits? Yeah, that is definitely not a minor paperwork typo. It's a major systemic breakdown requiring immediate corrective action. It means your controls failed, your monitoring missed it, and you very likely violated a legal limit. A nonconformity is a structural warning signal that your system is just not operating the way it was designed to.
Which brings us to Section 4, the continual improvement loop.
So how do we fix these breakdowns? Continual improvement. This is the recurring process of enhancing the environmental management system to achieve optimized environmental performance. And listen, this isn't just about treading water and maintaining basic baseline compliance. It's a dynamic, ongoing evolution. ISO 14001-2026 genuinely expects your system to adapt to new technologies, changing risks, and shifting stakeholder expectations so you can push way beyond minimum compliance.
In the real world, this looks like tracking excessive electricity use, identifying the specific wasteful equipment that's causing the spike, and then actively investing in energy-efficient technology to redesign those operational processes. You aren't just slapping a Band-Aid on a broken machine to get back to baseline, you're fundamentally optimizing the process to systematically reduce your environmental impact over time.
Look at how these 4 terms map out a perfect, continuous cycle. Step 1. Monitor, to observe the status. Step 2. Measure, to quantify that data accurately. Step 3. If you find a deviation, identify the nonconformity. Boom, there's your check engine light flashing. And Step 4. Improve and upgrade the entire system. Data drives the detection, and that detection drives systemic upgrades.
Finally, Section 5, Bridging ISO and Regulations.
Here's a bit of a harsh reality check for us all. An ISO 14001 auditor, a regulatory inspector, and an ISO 1911 lead auditor are essentially speaking different dialects of the exact same language. To avoid massive compliance risks, you've got to step up and act as the ultimate translator between your internal environmental goals and the external regulatory expectations.
Treat this table right here like your personal cheat sheet. When you map this out, what you internally call an ISO nonconformity translates directly into a regulatory violation or breach, which an auditor is just going to call an audit finding. Or an ISO compliance obligation is the exact same thing as a regulatory legal requirement or permit. If you don't translate these terms properly, a regulator might ask you about a breach, and your team might genuinely not realize they're talking about a nonconformity you are already actively fixing.
So, nailing this linguistic precision, it's not just semantics, it's your ultimate defense mechanism for your organization's environmental integrity. Harmonizing these terms across your entire system prevents underreporting, it fixes misaligned goals, and it dodges incredibly costly legal penalties. It guarantees that everyone from the plant floor all the way up to the regulatory agency is on the exact same page. So I want to leave you with this final thought to ponder about your own operations. Is your organization just monitoring your environmental footprint, or are you actually measuring it to drive true continual improvement? Because true sustainability, it requires way more than just passively watching the dial. It requires precise, quantifiable action. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.